Hi everybody and welcome to this tutorial for this chaise lounge. What we're going to do with this, we're going to pipe around the facings. We've got an attached seat, so I'm going to pipe around the seat probably all the way around. So at the moment we've just got this kind of fringe on the front edge and down the side, but I think I'm going to pipe all the way around the top of the seat to make it look like a separate cushion. On the back we'll put a little border, a little narrow border along the back, and we'll also pipe this seam as well. And finally we'll just take the cover underneath nice and tight and we'll velcro to the frame underneath, and we'll probably put this piping line in here. We'll copy the original. This border on the top, it looks like they've put a kind of ruffle border, but we'll put a nice flat border to resemble the cushion on the top. I think that's it. I'll explain. Okay, so the next piece is the inside back. We need a piece 1 inch or 2 past the top, and then enough for the tucking at the bottom, 3-4 inches, and then length just past the edge there and just past the edge of the inside back. And then we just need to pin nice and straight and parallel. So all we're doing on the inside back at the side is allowing exactly the same as we did on the inside arm, which is just over 1 inch to tuck away. I'm just cutting in towards the line just so the fabric releases, so it can get up and around the corner. So we keep going to the top, and then we're just looking to cut into the exact same place as we released this piece here. So we cut into exactly the same place, and again just 1/4 inch from the inside back to release the fabric like so. Then what you can do at the top there is where that release point is, you can just pin the tucking back like so, because when we put the border on, the border is going to be pinned around here, and we'll just be pinning down to that release point that we've just cut in. So I've just folded the seam back right on the release points there, so both matching up. We've folded the fabric back, leaving the seam allowance, and then this border will be pinning this border down, and then we'll be joining at the bottom to this fabric here. So you can trim a little bit of this off if you like. And now we'll just finish off the seat tucking. So the tucking at the back, we need to finish the same length as the inside arm. And then on this side, we can tuck that away and then do the same with the marker pen as we did on the front of the seat. We can just draw the marker for the depth that we require. Once you've cut that piece, just double check it's the same length as the inside arm, like so. Very important that these two pieces finish the same length. Then we can tuck away again, and that's the inside back panel complete. We now need to pin a narrow piece of fabric on this top border. Okay, so we've now pinned on this top border, and I've put plenty of pins to take this shape. You need to get plenty of anchor pins in order to get this shape nice and tight to the frame. So I've got a pin every 2-3 inches. I've pinned that all the way around the top. So now all we're going to do is we're going to pin following the original. We're going to pin all the way around. If you need to do, as you're pinning, you can put a few little cuts towards the piping just to ease the fabric. And we're just going to follow all the way up and along the top. Once you're happy, you can then trim off, leaving your seam allowances. And finally, we need to add some notches, so we've got something to match up to when we come to sew the cover together. I'll put a double one at the top, and then finally we just want to pin the arm release piece to the border, and that pins towards the outside back, and put a notch on that. So we've pinned over into the release point, and then we've picked up the arm release point and pinned that to the border. So that's the arm joining to the border, and then that's been pinned towards the back of the arm, and then we can just trim off. So that's the release point on the arm joining to the bottom of the border, and then we've got a notch in there, and then all I'm going to do down here, tight into the frame. So we've taken the inside back down to the bottom of the seat. We've allowed for the tucking. I've now marked tight into the edge of the border. We'll put the seams back on the cutting table so we can put plus seam. So when we put this panel on, this panel will join to this border. We'll put notches on, and then this border will continue around the cushion. So for now, that's the inside back pinned all the way around and down to the bottom of the tucking. So that's inside back and border complete. Okay, so we've got this piece pinned on. We've cut the seams off. You now just need to double check everything's correct on the inside, the seam allowances. You might just need to trim 1 or 2 parts. That looks okay. Right, the beauty of cutting out in a lining. One of the main reasons I cut out in the lining is in case I ever make a mistake. Now, when I've cut this inside back, I've actually cut it a little bit too short on this tuck-in part. So I don't know if you can see there. All I've done there is I've just put plus 1.5 inches because I've just not cut quite enough depth for my tuck-in. So on the cutting table, I'll just add that mistake back on. I'm okay at the top, at this top side. It's just this bottom side. I've just gone a little bit short, so I'm just going to add 1.5 inches on the cutting table. But like I say, that's the beauty of using a pattern. I mean, I've done hundreds of these. I've done hundreds of these over the years, but even I make mistakes. So I've wrote on there. So when we come to cut that on the cutting table, you'll see the mistake and the explanation is there. Okay, so we're now going to the seat.